So let me start with one very specific non-hypothetical. The president has said that my head looks like a watermelon. Will you commit to making him stop?
Senator, I feel for you. I really do. But I can't commit to making President Trump stop calling you watermelon head because, to be honest, your head does look like a watermelon. I mean, damn. And how do you even hold that thing straight with that tiny little pencil neck?
Countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Congress Flash. Today we break down recent politics. You ever watch a hearing and think, that just went off the rails? Yeah, this was one of those moments. Schiff thought he could deflect, dodge, and play the usual game. But this time, he got called out. Badly. Pam Bondi and Patel came loaded with questions, real ones, and what followed was a public unraveling of one of DC's most media-savvy politicians. Let's break it all down in fast points. It all kicked off with a bizarre, satirical jab, someone mocking the fact that President Trump allegedly called a senator watermelon head. Now, that alone sounds like a circus, but the response? Pure roast. Instead of diffusing the moment, it set the tone for what would be a brutally confrontational hearing. Sarcasm turned into spectacle.
One of the advantages of being the junior most member of the committee on our side of the aisle is you get to listen to everything that's gone on before you during the course of a hearing. And I want to add my voice to my colleagues who have raised the concern about what happened yesterday. I listened to my ranking member ask a legitimate oversight question about the legal basis for troops to be rappelling from a Black Hawk helicopter for a military-style assault on an apartment building in a major city, the zip tying of children. What was the legal basis for this? I heard my ranking member ask that very simple question, that completely appropriate question. If that's not an appropriate oversight question, I don't know what an appropriate oversight question is. And the response was not just to refuse to answer the question, but it was to attack the character of the ranking member and to insult him. And then when it was Senator Whitehouse's turn to ask a question, he asked a very legitimate oversight question about a FBI undercover operation in which reportedly $50,000 was paid to the White House border czar prior to him becoming the White House border czar, but with the expectation that he would be helpful in arranging contracts when he became the White House border czar. What happened to the money? A perfectly legitimate oversight question. And rather than answer that question, in a closed investigation, not an open investigation, but a closed investigation, she simply attacked Senator Whitehouse personally. And I heard another one of my colleagues ask what was the legal basis for blowing up ships in the Caribbean. Reportedly, the Justice Department wrote an opinion justifying blowing up ships in the Caribbean. A perfectly legitimate oversight question, and the response was another personal attack. These, what were apparently canned, written personal attacks in advance. I wouldn't bother with the attacks on me. I've grown all too accustomed to them for the last 8 years. But if members of this committee can't ask those serious questions and get serious answers, we can't do oversight. I'm new to this committee. I spent about a decade on the House Judiciary Committee. I never saw a hearing like this with a cabinet officer, and if I did and some Democratic cabinet officer were to personally attack each of my Republican colleagues, I would call for a stop to it. It would be disgraceful. And I understand the reluctance to criticize on your side of the aisle one of the Republican cabinet members. But if this becomes the template for future hearings, we won't be able to do any oversight, and things will just degenerate. These questions deserve answers. I would expect that if troops were rappelling from helicopters in any city, in any of your states, and hog-tying children, you would want to know the legal basis.
Sarcasm turned into spectacle, and that was just the opening scene. Adam Schiff quickly became the center of attention, and not in a good way. Portrayed as smug and evasive, he dodged tough questions from Bondi and Patel. These weren't gotcha questions. They were legitimate concerns. Why are DOJ agents rappelling out of Black Hawk helicopters in U.S. cities? Why were children zip-tied in these raids? Where did the $50,000 paid to a future White House official come from? And why? Instead of answering, Schiff deflected, and when the pressure built, he lashed out. Now here.
And so would I. We are going to submit for the record, in written form, the questions that the Attorney General refused to answer. I would hope, Mr. Chairman, you would join us in submitting those questions. They will have a much better chance of being answered if you join us in submitting those questions. But I would hope also in the future that if a witness, rather than respond, simply attacks our members, that it be stopped. That the witness be instructed to either answer the question or to state why they're refusing to answer the question, but to refrain from personal attacks on the members of this committee. That would be my request. And Mr. Chairman, I'm really grateful to be on this committee. And I appreciate every interaction I've had with you. You have, in our personal interactions, always been eminently fair. If I didn't think that you were of that character, I wouldn't even raise this because there wouldn't be a point. But I would ask that we not have another hearing like that one, and that you join in our legitimate oversight requests. And with that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I thought that I set the decorum for a hearing, oversight hearing, when I said before we asked the director of the FBI any questions or any statements, that we should, both sides, treat each other with respect. And I even said to Patel, if you don't get a chance to answer your questions, I'll give you an opportunity after the senator's finished for a few minutes to respond whatever you didn't get a chance to say. And you know how that meeting turned out. And particularly from your side of the aisle, a lot of strong statements about the FBI director. Whether they were legitimate or not is beside the point. It didn't follow the decorum, and obviously the director of the FBI didn't follow the decorum. So I don't know what more I can do than plead with my people who are fellow senators to follow a certain decorum, and I assume it would be followed on the other side. I don't appreciate the insults that went to Democrat members, particularly where they were wrong, but after seeing how senators handled the FBI director, I guess I felt that just let the show go on the way the senators wanted to go on. And that's what developed as a result of it. That may be a weak excuse for what happened that day, but I thought things didn't work out the way I expected them to when the FBI director was here, and some of the people on your side of the aisle were some of the ones that were screaming and yelling and talking over the FBI director. Meeting adjourned.
Out. Now here's where it got real. Under fire, Schiff reportedly snapped, launching personal attacks instead of giving straight answers. He lost composure. That usual polished tone, gone. The smirk, disappeared. For someone who's made a career out of controlling the narrative, this moment was raw, and it showed. And while Schiff unraveled, Bondi and Patel stayed calm, composed, and laser-focused. They didn't insult. They just asked the questions the American people deserve answers to. By the way, if you're finding this breakdown helpful, Smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We cover what the mainstream won't. Other senators weren't impressed either. They called out the lack of decorum, the refusal to answer questions, and the personal attacks. One even said, if we can't ask serious questions and get serious answers, we can't do oversight. Even the committee chairman had to step in, admitting the hearing had spiraled out of control. He pointed fingers at both sides but subtly confirmed what everyone watching already knew. This was a mess, and Schiff was in the middle of it. This wasn't just about one bad day for Adam Schiff. The narrator framed this as a pattern, not a one-off. From his handling of the Russia collusion narrative to his media grandstanding, Schiff has built a reputation, and not a great one. This hearing exposed what happens when that media armor cracks. The questions were real, the answers were missing, and the meltdown was very public. So what does this all mean? When the people who hold power can't answer basic oversight questions without breaking down or throwing insults, we've got a bigger problem. This hearing wasn't just political theater, it was a window into how far some will go to avoid accountability. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel proved one thing. Calm, competent questioning can cut through the noise. Schiff can deflect all he wants, but the truth is, catching up. Fast. If you're tired of the spin and want real breakdowns of what's happening behind those Capitol doors, hit like, subscribe, one shot one maisher you one, subscribe, one dat one kasher one kunsrein one, and share this video. Let's keep the spotlight on the people who think they're above answering to us. Until next time, stay informed, stay sharp, and never stop asking questions.